Hi, I'm Marilyn Long. For years and years, I've been Anita Baldwin. I've been in Arcadia as Anita Baldwin. I've also been up here at Lake Tahoe as Anita Baldwin. And I even went to Reno one time as Anita Baldwin. I'm going to take you walking on her property at Fallen Leaf Lake today. I'd like to give credit to two gentlemen. The first one being Owen Evans, who helped work on this property for the Forest Service. The other one is Rick Brower. Rick Brower I met down at the Talac site late most evenings when he walked his dog down there, and we both knew we were interested in history, so he proposed an Anita Baldwin project. And these pictures and a lot of the information came from Rick Brower, who is no longer with us. You'll see that Anita's house was on one side of the lake, and then she had 3 houses built for family and friends on the far side of the lake. And we'll talk more about that later on. Let's go. This is the wigwam where Linda Cole, the first director out of Talac, was given this to live in during 2 years, her first times out here. So I had been told it torn down. It's exciting to see today that it's still here. But we'll talk more about wigwams as we go on. Nid Ji, the name of Anita Baldwin's house. And somewhere, it's been hard to identify, there was a gate that you came in. Anita loved to spend time with the Hopi and the Navajo people. Nid Ji means house by water. Here is the map of the entire Nid Ji estate. It has 2 wigwams on it. That's for guests to stay in. There's lots of cottages down by the lake. There's also the main house. There's an arboretum for all the beautiful plants. And if you're lucky, you might find the lilac and other things. Water came from a spring on the other side of Cathedral Row. And there is a pump house down by the lake, if it's still standing.
This was the pump house that supplied water to the site, and it's too bad the house has fallen down in the last 8 or 10 years, and the pump is gone. It was here until several years ago. The suction line goes out into the lake to bring in water to feed the site up the hill.
So let's go on and look for the house by the water. Oh, there! We are at the house by the lake, Nid Ji. This is the beautiful front porch so that you could sit out here, sit in the shade, enjoy the day. This house and Dexter's house over the Talac Historic Site were built by the same architect. We have the same sort of fireplace. We have a 2-sided fireplace. Look at what was on Anita's property. That big old buffalo head, but it is still standing today. So come out and see it sometime. It was torn down, but I have beautiful pictures of the interior of the house. She spent time with these 2 native groups, and they gave her the decorations that you see inside this house. You will see the interior of this house is exactly like the Baldwin Museum. It is, Anita had somebody build very appropriate furniture for this house. She built rustic furniture for this house. But her favorite part of her house was her piano. She composed over 80 pieces of music. Some of them can still be found online on the Chronicle and Examiner's newspaper archives. And so she loved her piano and she loved her music. That's why she built a radio room. If you wanted to listen to that confounded new contraption, you had to go down there and listen to it. You could not listen to it in her house. And so that was her special thing. was her music and her piano. In the 1950s, Owen Evans was sent out here to get rid of this house because the Forest Service happens in so many other places. With a beautiful place like this next to the lake, people were asking to stay in it. Well, you can't have that happen. So Owen Evans was sent out here to take down the house. That's when he took wood away for the house on Tamarack. And also, what did they do with the contents of this house? It still had everything in it. Lucky Baldwin had died in 19 1909, Comstocks moved away. So Anita had all that property that I showed you in that first map. And she died in 38. So this house sat, if you could imagine, until almost the 50s. What did they do? That front porch I showed you, they moved all the furnishings from inside this house out on the front porch for people to come and take what they wanted. The first director, Linda Cole, I asked her, because Anita had a beautiful quilted tent that we still have today. And I said, where was the tent at? Somebody would have taken that. Linda told me that in the barn at the McGonigal house, there were certain things stuffed and put away, and Anita's tent was one of them. One of my favorite stories was told me by Barbara Craven. She and Bill were out on a boat on the lake. And of course, this is one of the best swimming areas. So this is while Anita was still alive. She came in to swim, and guess what? She had buckshot shot over her head from the guards that Anita Baldwin kept on property to keep people off of it. A sawmill. Yes, when Lucky Baldwin had this, they had a sawmill. Anita took the sawmill out, but she put an upper deck in the sawmill so that her boats were in the lower half and any vehicles could be pulled into the upper second story. While Maynard Dixon was here, we know they built a bathhouse and a sauna. Over in this general area, there was one other tiny building. It was called the radio room. Anita never allowed a radio in her house.
That's where he hid his bottle. Her grandfather liked to tip a few once in a while. Hid the bottle behind a sliding piece of bark, which is obviously no longer there.
We're heading down this way and hopefully find the path over to Baldwin's house. Well, Anita was married twice. Anita first married a cousin of hers when she was 16 years old out on San Francisco Bay. Lucky was very upset and wanted it annulled immediately, but Anita was pregnant, and so Anita had twin boys that died in infancy. So then the marriage was annulled. Later, she met a very influential attorney from San Francisco. His name was McCaltry, and they had two children. Dexter was the oldest, and Baldwin was the youngest. How did Baldwin get that name? When Anita divorced, she got rid of the McCaltry name, and the children wanted to go back to Baldwin. So her son became Baldwin. Job of obliterating where the cabin itself was out here. This was a circular driveway. One of the things Susan always loved to point out was there were grinding stones from the Washoe Indians. So across the way is Anita's property and house. Baldwin was a jazz musician in San Francisco, so he never lived in this house. As far as we know, no one ever lived in this house. But Susan Frederick said she remembered as a child climbing to the upstairs and looking across the lake, and some of these trees that are here, she said, those trees weren't in my way. I could look straight over to Anita's house. Ray Nisley went to Santa Anita Racetrack in Southern California as a stable boy. But after many years, he and Lucky Baldwin became very good friends, and so Ray Nisley handled the financials for the Baldwin family. Even after Lucky died, he handled all the financials for Anita. So when Ray Knisley decided he was going to marry one of the Richardson daughters over at Camp Richardson, Anita decided she had to build a house for them right here on the lake as their honeymoon cottage. But they never lived here. They had their own house over at Camp Richardson. But he also was very good friends with Baldwin Baldwin. Baldwin Baldwin was a jazz musician and, as I said, lived in San Francisco. So it's no wonder their two homes are so close to each other out here on the lake.
About a mile up Fallen Leaf Lake's shoreline, a third house was built as a gift to Rosebud, Anita's niece. Unfortunately, Rosebud and husband were kicked out after Anita's death by Ray Knisley after it was found they had been commercially logging on their Fallen Leaf Lake property. Today, at the Tulloch Historic Site, there is a shingle identifying Rosebud and her husband's lumbering effort, and the dock from the original cabin still resides at the Taggart's old cabin site. It is a favourite, serene spot for many who venture to visit Fallen Leaf Lake's shores.